Hello, everybody. Ella J here on behalf of WrestleZone, and today I'm joined by a very special guest, fueled by ramen and spite and angst and snark. It's Kennedy Copeland. How are you today?
That's quite the intro.
Yes, you have so many facets to you, which we'll talk about today. But I have to start off by chatting about somebody who I love very dearly, who you love very dearly as well. That being Edge, Adam Copeland, Sexton Hardcastle. He's got multiple names, but we love him. He is one of my
We have
top
that in
five favorite.
common.
Yes, he is one of my top five favorite wrestlers of all time. He's probably up higher for you. Can you talk about the influence that he's had on you and just how far back your Edge, Adam
Oh
Copeland
my
fandom
God.
extends?
Probably as far as when he debuted.
Yeah.
Um, so that was about 97. So I was 5 years old.
Yeah, that was the year I was
And
born, so I didn't get to see early
oh my
Edge, but yeah.
God. All right, we're ending this now. No, I'm kidding. Um, yeah, so I think that's kind of what shaped what I was looking for in a man too. I was like, ooh, tall, long hair.
Mhm.
um, but no, that's not the only reason why I like him. I mean, um, he just, no pun intended, but he had this edge to him, I was like, who is this brooding man? So yeah, I've been influenced by him from as far back as I can remember, really.
I'm so curious for you. Is there a certain moment throughout his career that you just like is your go-to moment of Edge's career?
I'm a little biased because I did see him win his first championship live at New Year's Revolution. So that was
Oh,
really cool for me. Yeah. And then of course there was, the live sex celebration.
yes.
I was again, I really was very young. I was in sixth grade. And
Yeah.
I remember my dad was like, you shouldn't be watching this. Um, but there's also probably his Mania 22 match that really sticks out for me. And also as sad. I mean, I guess it's not that sad, but as sad as it was at the time, I also got to see his first retirement, I
Oh
guess,
my God.
live. Yeah, so there's been a lot of poignant moments that I was fortunate enough to see live. So I think that's kind of why those stick out more than others, but that's because I'm a little biased because I
Yeah,
was there.
I discovered him late. I didn't start watching until 2009. The first pay-per-view I ever saw was his
Okay.
Royal Rumble win. So I mean, that
Oh,
maybe
word.
that was the first ever pay-per-view I saw. He was when he came back and then won, and then the
It was a
next year he
huge deal.
retires, and then it's like,
Oh, you're like, that
you
was
know,
it.
I know, but I still kept tabs and went back, and then obviously him coming back in 2020 was huge.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I would not be doing my due diligence if I wasn't to gush over him with you. So, but I'm so curious. Can you tell me about your Edge Bear? Actually, I think you might have two of them. Can you
Oh my
tell me
God.
the
Do I have
story
them?
behind
Oh,
them?
oh wait, hang on. I actually,
Okay.
it's right next. I have one right next to me.
Yeah.
So I got one. I think it was at, I want to say it was at New Year's Revolution or around that time frame at least. So I got one, and then my ferret actually stole it and shredded it, which I didn't know ferrets could do. And so I was like, no. So my boyfriend was nice enough to get me another one. He's nice enough to kind of
Yeah.
enable this obsession, even though sometimes I think it kind of annoys him. But
Man, I want one of those. I'm so jealous about it. They don't
oh,
sell. I feel like they don't sell like merchandise like that anymore, really. Like the stuffed
I
like
know.
bears and stuff like that. I feel like that would have been
Hmm.
something really cool to own. So, but
Yeah, that's why it's on the top shelf now,
to
so
keep
that
it safe,
nobody,
yeah.
yep, so the dogs can't get
No
to it or
dogs.
anything.
Obviously, I mean, again, I would not be doing my due diligence if we didn't talk about kind of this full circle moment. He wasn't there, but also, you
Nope.
did recently pay homage to Adam Copeland when you were invited to AEW for a match on Rampage.
Hmm.
Obviously, with Adam Copeland now performing under Copeland, his real name, you had to make a little tweak to your last name, and you
Just a
decided
little
to
bit.
reference one of his former names of Hardcastle. Tell us about that night and the decision to perform under the name of Kennedy Hardcastle.
Okay, well, first of all, that night was very stressful because I got the invite. I was like, oh my God, what if he's there? And
Yeah.
honestly, a lot of people were like, was he there? And I'm almost relieved that he wasn't, just because I feel like I don't know what I would do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it also just kind of gives me something to still kind of strive for, um, something to like look forward to, I guess. And that's not to say that like the Rampage match wasn't amazing in itself. You know, I
Yeah.
don't want to diminish that at all. Um, but I was asked that, you know, if they were to use me, obviously we'd have to change the name. So, you know, what else would you want to go by? And as a joke, I said Hardcastle. I was like, there's no way they're gonna bite. Um, but they did. They loved it, and so I'm pretty sure that's kind of what like got me the opportunity. Almost like we gotta use this name. Um, so yeah, I what started off as a joke really kind of paid off in the end.
Yeah, and you committed to it, you know? It's so iconic,
I
Kennedy,
committed to
honestly.
the
It
bit.
it is so iconic, like, when I saw that, obviously, and it's it kinda went viral too a little bit too. I wish she was there,
I
that would have
know
been such a full circle
that
thing.
I
Oh,
I I think I just would have been done. You know, like had that
and
all happen in the
retire,
same, like
yeah,
what could top that? You know,
yeah.
exactly. So
Yeah.
that again, I'm kind of glad he wasn't, because then I'd just be like, well, what's left?
Yeah, that's true. But like you said, the match itself, I know Willow Nightingale was somebody who you had been
Mhm.
wanting to work with for a long time, and you finally get the
Yeah.
chance to do that. How was it
Yep.
working in the ring with Willow and Chris?
So it's funny actually because I have worked Willow once. This was years ago. I can't remember, like 2017 maybe. Like I said, years. But it was in I think like I think there were 6 women in it altogether.
Mm,
Um, so I mean, obvious, and this was years ago when we were both
yeah.
still, you know, honing our craft and whatnot.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to, you know, be able to do it again and see kind of how far we've both come. And Chris Stat was actually somebody I've also been wanting to work with, and I was supposed to have a match with her at some, I don't know, random fed. And then
Mhm.
of course the show didn't happen. So that never happened. So it's kind of really cool to get to work with them both in the same match. And I don't know, it was just kind of almost another full circle moment almost.
Yeah, what an experience. Now they need to invite you back, whether it's for Collision or Dynamite, and get you some Copeland backstage, so you can have the true full circle moment. And
Yeah.
through this
I don't know if I'm
experience,
ready for that. I don't even know if I'm ready for
you
that.
sometimes though you need to be pushed outside of your comfort zone,
You know, that's
sometimes
true.
we do,
If you wait until you're ready, then you're never ready. So I try to
Exactly.
abide by that.
Exactly. And, through this experience, I'd imagine you were surrounded by a lot of producers and obviously, even more seasoned veterans backstage. So, were you able to pick anyone's brain for advice while you were backstage? And if so, what did they teach you?
It was kind of funny because I feel like I didn't actually have that much time to prepare. Um, Both Notorious Mimi and I, amongst others, were just watching the show in
Yeah.
catering, and we were enjoying it. And all of a sudden, Sean Dean comes up to us and goes, "You guys know you have a match on Rampage, right?" And I was like, "What?" Um, and so we only really had a couple hours. But afterwards, you know, I got to talk to Orange Cassidy, got to talk to Dustin Rhodes. They said, you know, great work. And I was like, thanks. So that was just a really cool experience.
Yeah, and like we said, hopefully, this is not the last we've seen of Kennedy Hardcastle in AEW, or Ring of Honor even,
Hopefully
since they're kind of
not.
under
Yeah,
the
that's
same umbrella.
yep, that's been a goal as well.
Yeah, keep striving and all of that. And also kind of tying into that, I know one of your other idols is obviously Myles Kennedy, singer and guitarist in Alter Bridge. They have that connection obviously to wrestling. Tell us about how he has inspired you.
So oh God, I just, not that I don't love Adam Copeland, but I just love Myles Kennedy so much. I have like 3 Alter Bridge my tattoos. I have his autograph on my arm. I don't really intended. Um, but this is gonna be very cliche, but it's like really his music. I found his music at a time when I needed it the most. At like a really pivotal point in my life, and I honestly don't know where I would be if I hadn't really gotten into it. I've met him on several occasions, so
I
I
know.
can, cross that off my list. But not even like his music, his work with, he's very into like elephants and whatnot, and so I kind of started to get into that and learned a little bit more. So yeah, even just like in my personal life, he's really affected me.
Yeah, like you said, I've seen the collages of the photos of you meeting them and seeing them in concert. You've gotten to see Alter Bridge, you know. How many times have you seen Alter Bridge in concert?
Oh God, um, let's see. Saw them upstate New York. I went all the way to I've gone to New York City once, New Jersey once, Connecticut. I want to say at least 4 times. No, Worcester 5 times. Oh my God, I don't have a life. So I've seen Alter Bridge at least 5 times, but then I have also seen. I need a life. I've also seen Myles Kennedy with Slash, and then I've also seen his solo work. So I've seen him like maybe a dozen times.
I mean, like that is a social life, Kennedy. That's more than I've seen my second favorite band 3 times, you know. Work, you do a lot of work though, obviously with wrestling and in animals. We'll get to that in a second. So, that's
Yeah.
awesome to be able to go to as many concerts as you have to see Alter Bridge. I mean, you've met them multiple times, you've seen them. Tell us about the experience, one of the experiences of meeting Myles, like for the first time, if you
Ugh.
remember.
What was the first time? Oh my God, the first time I was shaking so hard. um, yeah, that was the first time. But like every time I've met him, he's just a very, really, I don't even know if words can do diligence, but he's just a very calm guy. But at the same time, I'm always just so nervous. But like gradually, as I've met him more and more.
Yeah.
I think the last time I met him, I was like, "Yo, can we like pose hard style?" And he's like, "What's that?" And so I had to show him. It was really fun. And
What
I
does
don't know,
that mean?
oh God, it's that one picture where like you're kind of like holding hands and you're on your knee. Yeah. So
Got it, got it.
I was stoked that he actually went along with it. But yeah, I've been fortunate enough that I've been able to let him know how much he inspires me. And, I've told him like, hey, I named myself after you. And he seemed very grateful, but also I don't think he's as as big of a wrestling fan, if at all. But I know like Mark Tremonti, the guitarist, the
Yeah.
other guitarist of Alter Bridge, is a pretty big fan. So he's like, oh, that's cool. So yeah, it's just overall been every time I've met them, I have not been let down.
Now, were you introduced to Alter Bridge because of Edge, or was it yes? Okay, okay,
Actually, so kind of yes, but no.
okay.
I guess I never really made the connection. So it was actually their song. I want to say it was for Unforgiven 2007. God, I'm really like dating myself here. But basically one of their song Rise Today was one of the themes for a pay-per-view. I was like,
Got
oh
it.
my God, this is like beautiful. And then I was like, oh, they're the same people that do
Yeah,
Edge's theme. And then it just
got it.
kind of went from there. Yeah. So
You
yes, but
love
no.
it when it intersects, you know?
Yes.
Um, now maybe it would be Alter Bridge, but if you could have any band or artist create a custom entrance song for you, who would it be and what would it sound like?
Oh God. I don't That's actually a really hard question because I feel like I'm always changing it. I mean, when I first started, it was Slash with Myles Kennedy. I used one of those songs.
Yeah.
But then I think it was then I used My Chemical Romance. Now I'm using AFI. And then I've been kind of using Fall Out Boy, but some people like the AFI more than the Fall Out Boy, so I kind of bounce back and forth. So maybe like one of them or something in those genres. I feel I just get so like not bored very quickly, but I like to change things up.
You're always evolving, your character too, especially, in some days, you're babyface, you're heel, depending what the match type is. Sometimes the music,
Mm-hmm.
maybe
Yeah.
doesn't vibe with the whole theme, it changes
Yeah.
various promotion and character wise. So I can, totally understand that,
Yeah.
and kind of on a similar wavelength. Obviously, you've participated in a lot of unique match stipulations, such as a food fight invitational, a six-way ladder
Yes.
match for the boner in the bank, obviously death matches of all sorts. The list goes on and on. What has been the weirdest in-ring moment of your career so far? Because I feel like you're one of those people who has like you just participate in very unique, match stipulations.
The weirdest. Oh my God. I wish one like immediately would come to mind.
If not,
Oh,
then what would you maybe pinpoint as the craziest? Because you've been involved in a lot of deathmatch stuff, obviously.
the craziest. It would probably have to be my first one. And I think it was the moment that I got picked up for oh God, what is it? I think it was like a power bomb. As you can see, I've kind of gotten hit in the head a lot. I'm like, what
Okay.
was it? I got picked up, and then I immediately knew I was going to get thrown into an ironing board. And that was the moment I just kind of let it go and was like, okay, I guess we're doing. I literally thought, okay, I guess this is what we're doing. And then I just feel like that was sort of uh that's just kind of how the rest of my career went.
Your
So I think that was,
initiation into
yeah,
deathmatch.
honestly, it felt like it. So that's probably the one of the moments that stands out.
And now an ironing board is probably nothing for you.
Honestly, I, I don't know if I would do it again.
Okay.
That might be a
Fair
one
enough.
and done thing.
Fair enough.
I've done it. I can say I've done it. I'm
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Now, is there a match stipulation that you haven't tackled yet that you would like to explore?
Ooh, I I don't I don't know. A lot of it just kind of has to happen. When I first started doing these death matches, um, I was always hesitant to take like gusset plates. I was always like, I don't know if I would ever do that. And now I'm like, I would totally do that again. So I think it just has to kind of be presented in the moment, and then I will, then be like, all right, let's just like give that a try and see what happens.
Yeah, like we said, you've like I just listed a couple of two like a minute ago, some two very unique, like a food fight invitational and a six-way match for Boner in the Bank, which is just iconic. Again, you've had such an interesting
Such an
career.
illustrious career.
Yeah, it's so fun. Obviously, it's painful, but it's so fun, You can definitely tell that
It
you
is.
you you love what you're doing, and obviously it can hurt, but kind of
Mm-hmm.
focusing on, I don't know, maybe not more traditional, but is there a particular match or performance of yours that you feel the most proud of and why?
Um, I think one that immediately comes to mind is my match with Ricky Shane Page. Just because he's somebody that I like really admire and
Yeah.
respect. And so after that match, I I broke down crying because I was just so proud of it. And the poor guy had to like go get my boyfriend and be like, so she's back there crying. And my boyfriend was like, is she hurt? And I was just like, no, I'm just really happy. So that was one that meant a lot. I don't know. I just was like, he could be doing so many better things, and yet he chose to have a match with me, and so it meant a lot, and I always, every time I interact with him I learn a lot, so that, yeah, probably that match.
You've come a long way. Next year is your 10-year anniversary of
Is
your
it? Oh
wrestling
God,
debut.
it is, isn't it?
Next year,
Whew.
it's time flies fast when you're having fun, like we said, on your Wrestleversary, this past, I believe it was September, you shared a very emotional post on there. Kind of going off of that in this last, what, 9 years now, how do you think that you've grown as a person and as a competitor?
Well, it's funny that you said, time flies when you're having fun, because in the beginning it wasn't. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie. And I did take a couple months off at one point, and that's why I was like, is it really like 10 years? And yeah, I guess it is altogether. It's been about 10 years. But I think just looking back as a person, I feel as though I've grown. I mean, some of the stuff that like I did back then, I just did like a lot of stupid stuff, I guess. I hurt a lot of people in like my personal life in the process. I put wrestling first, which I mean, if wrestling's a priority, then it's okay to be selfish sometimes. But now I try to make it a priority to, spend time with those that matter to me and whatnot. So I think as a person, I like to think I'm a little bit better. As far as a performer, I like to think I've gotten a little bit better as well. Obviously, you never stop improving. But yeah, I look back and I'm proud of how far I've come, but I also almost feel sorry for who I used to be and the things that I had to go through. But again, they say things happen for a reason, so I just kind of choose to believe that. Otherwise, why dwell on things you can't change?
You could definitely tell maybe it's just a thing too with age, because I know even me a decade ago I was very in granted it was still in high school, but very insecure. But you
Oh,
can definitely tell, as you grow in life and get more experience, you're always learning, but you can definitely tell you have more of a confidence to you. And obviously
well,
part of
thank
that has to
you.
do with your experience in that. So that's something to be, I think, really proud of too, how far. That you've come so far.
Thank you. I think a lot of it is also, it's funny because I said this to like a coworker or something the other day. I was like, if I am too invested in something, it doesn't become fun anymore. So I almost had to take that step back from wrestling and say, you know, if I am not doing this for fun, then why am I doing it? So I tried to change my mindset and say, I'm just doing this for fun. And ever since I've done that, I've had the most fun. So it seems to be working.
Yeah, it's one of those, very weird industries that's not only physical but mental as well. There's
Mm-hmm.
politics, that you're away from home for a while sometimes, it's one of those there's a lot of components to it basically. It's not just,
Yep.
one thing. But as you're now looking towards the future, obviously continuing to have fun is definitely probably high up there for you. What are some of your other personal and professional goals for the next year or two?
Ooh. Um, I I don't I mean mentioned earlier Ring of Honor would be cool. Um, but I don't often set goals. I know goals work for some people. But I just feel like, and maybe this is like what my therapist has taught me, but if I can only control so much. So if, I can work my butt off and people can still be like, nah, we don't want her, then I'm going to be like, what is it that I can do? So I don't want to say like, oh, I want to do X, Y, and Z because it's not always up to me. Um, so I just, honestly, my goal is to just keep having fun with it. Um, Try to keep riding this wave of momentum I got going on. Um, and yeah, I mean, I just want to take whatever opportunity comes my way as it comes.
And it's kind of ironic you mentioned this riding this wave of momentum. You have a tattoo that's kind of a reminder of that you are excelling, on I
Yes.
think I don't know
My
what
therapist
forearm
told
it's
me to
on,
get it.
but
It's
that
this
I,
one
I was
here.
I was going to ask about that. I have to imagine sometimes that can be a really
Mm-hmm.
uplifting reminder for you because you are excelling, in riding this wave of momentum. So I was going to
Yeah.
ask, could you tell me more about the story surrounding that specific tattoo?
Yeah. So this happened after a poor decision I made that involved wrestling. And so I felt like I was at a very low point. And so I'm very open about therapy and whatnot. So I had a session. And I just felt so down on my luck. And my therapist was like, you need to remind yourself that you are excelling. And like, I don't care if you like get it tattooed on you to remind you, like, just remember that. And so I was like, I took it too literally. And so I literally like left that session and then went to a walk in. I was like, can we get this done? And I mean, I'm sorry if this is like a little bit heavy, but I did get it on the arm that I had self-harmed on before. Hadn't done it since. So it's serving its purpose. So yeah. Yep.
That in and of itself is inspiring. I have a degree in psych. I
Oh,
had
awesome.
always I also, a part of the reason was because of similar experiences to you, not to that magnitude,
Hmm.
but I wanted to help others. Obviously, I'm not using my degree now, but I understand it, with the background and all of that in therapy and all that. I think, I feel like that is probably the best way for you. Some people, might have notes on their wall or like a
Hmm.
sticky note or like a text reminder or something. That seems to work for you. So, I mean, maybe taking it literally was the best thing for you.
Sometimes I just have to do that.
You do you, and that's your way of expressing yourself. I know you have a number of tattoos on you. Do you have any plans for your next tattoo?
That's so funny. I was just talking about that at work today.
Cool.
Not yet. Um,
Okay.
Again, that's also very like it just kind of comes to me.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I for a while I've been wanting to get a tattoo for my late sister. But I don't know. I haven't really like set on one set thing yet. So we'll see. I definitely like want more. I just
Yeah.
don't know what.
They also cost money too, so like that's a whole other element of
Yeah.
it too. So
Yeah. And then I
I
have to
get
plan
that.
it around like, well, I'm gonna be sweaty this weekend, so
Yeah.
shouldn't get it then.
Yeah, yeah. No, but I think that's awesome. You use it as a way of not only to kind of uplift yourself, but also express yourself. So
Mhm.
that I think is really, really cool. And talking about stuff outside of wrestling, I know you have a background in jiu-jitsu. How can you
Yeah.
tell me more about your involvement with that and the extent of your background with jiu-jitsu?
So I am or was a blue belt. I actually haven't gone in quite a while. I don't want to be that blue belt that quit. So I know it seems like I don't set goals, but my one goal this sometime this year is to go back to it. I hate to use the excuse that like I've been busy, but I
Yeah,
have,
you have.
I can only give so much. Like, but it's funny because I actually started doing that during one of the points that I quit wrestling. So I was kind of looking for something to like fill that void, I guess. Um, and it was when I was with an old boyfriend of mine. He did like amateur wrestling. He was very into MMA. So he's like, I want to go check out this gym. And then I tagged along with him. And that's when I found out what jujitsu even was. I was like, what is it? Like, how do you say it? Didn't even know what it was. But then when I learned it was kind of like the little guys sport, I was like, this might be for me. Because I'm not coordinated enough for like striking and stuff. So, I am interested in the grappling aspect of things. And so I don't know. I just a lot of things in my life just are happenstance, and that was one of them.
Is there a rank between blue belt and black belt, or is literally black belt the next level above?
Quite a few there. So there's white belt, there's blue belt, there's purple, brown, and then black.
Yeah.
So got a ways to go.
I have a white belt in karate, so you're above me. So if that's any
Hey,
consolation.
well, aren't they different in karate?
Yeah, I know, but I'm
Or is
just saying
white
like
belt like
like
starter for
belts. Just just
everybody?
just starter. I got a starter belt. Then I quit. So you're you're further
Hey,
along than me. It's
I
different, but
mean,
belt wise
I
you're
couldn't do
further along
karate.
than me. Yeah, that's why I quit. You're getting my white
You're like, I
belt.
couldn't either. Like, I got the belt. I'm good.
Yeah, and to round things out, you're also a huge animal advocate, as you kind of alluded to earlier, with Myles Kennedy and elephants and all of that. I don't know if you still do, but I know you at least used to work at a local humane society. So can you
Yes.
tell us more about your work and that you've done with animals and the motivation behind this work?
So it's kind of the same with wrestling in that like it's something that I remember as far back as like a wee child.
Yeah.
I grew up with a lot of pets and whatnot. I did work at one humane society. I've since moved to another. Um, but I work in their spay and neuter clinic. I'm a very big proponent of spaying and neutering your animals. Not
Yeah.
only to this is where I like plug my beliefs.
Do it.
But not only am I a big proponent of spay and neuter because it curbs the overpopulation crisis. It
Yeah.
is also healthier for your animal. So you're doing everybody a favor when you spay and neuter your animal. Yeah, I've done a little bit of kind of everything in the animal welfare field. I mean, I'm currently a vet assistant, but I've also done like behavior work. And I've also, been a kennel cleaner. So I've been in the ditch, in the trenches. So
That is awesome. I don't remember what I want to say it was like a fox or a raccoon, but I remember a
yeah,
couple months ago, I remember keeping updated on your story. I think it was a fox or a raccoon or something similar to that
it
that
was a
had like
fox.
a broken leg or something like that. And luckily, do you have an update on that? I remember seeing in the morning
Yeah.
it survived through the night. That was lucky, but I
Yeah.
don't know what happened after that.
So she's actually doing well. So
Awesome.
basically, what had happened was I was coming home from a wrestling show, and I thought to myself, I was like, I'm actually making great time because I had to work the next morning,
Yeah.
and it was still like past midnight. But I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be able to get like a couple hours of sleep. And then I'm driving on the highway, and it was like pouring rain, middle of night, like in the mountains. And I saw like these glowing eyes, and I'm like, what the heck is it? And it was a fox chasing a mouse. Like I even saw the mouse that it was chasing. So I hope the
Yeah.
mouse is okay. But so I like slammed on my brakes and like went on the side of the road. And then as soon as I did, I was like, I don't think I hit it. And then whoops. And then I see a car go like right flying past me, and I was like, tell me that car just did. So I had to find like a U-turn, and then I saw on the side of the road, and I was like, no. And I don't know why I felt compelled to like get out of my car and
Yeah.
move it to the side of the road. I don't know why. Um, I just was like, maybe I'll give you some dignity. And then when I picked it up, I felt it breathe, and I was like, oh my God. So I was like, I can't just leave it here. I'm in too deep. Um, so I tried to bring it to like, the closer I got to home, I tried to bring it to like any animal hospital that was still open, but they couldn't take
Yeah.
it because it's a rabies risk. I was
Yeah.
like, well, aren't you guys like rabies vaccinated? So um they were literally like, just put it back. And I was like, first of all, I can't because I picked it up on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere. So I was like, I will just set up one of my crates for it and just make it comfy, and it can just, pass. And then I went to check on it the next morning, which was only like a couple hours later because by this point I'd been up all night.
Yeah.
And when I went to go check on it, it sat up and stared at me. And I was like, this cannot be happening right now. And so, long story short, I eventually found a wildlife rehabber who took her in. And she is doing well. Last update I got about her was that they were going to keep her. So this happened in like the fall or so.
Yeah.
They were going to keep her through the winter because they said her coat was just like a little too thin. And then they're going to move her to a bigger rehab where they have the means to hold like more foxes and whatnot. So I'm like, she's actually got a pretty good life now. So
That's awesome.
maybe it all happened for the best.
That is awesome news. Cheers
Mm-hmm.
to this fox. I remember that. I was like, I hope that fox is doing okay now. That's
Yeah.
awesome to hear. I think that that's incredible, what you're doing when you can too, and you have those instincts, and you have those love for your animals. I know you have a tattoo, I think, of your dog Trooper, I think it
Yeah.
was. Yeah,
Yeah.
which is, awesome. So that's
Yeah.
that's exciting. I know obviously I don't know how you would do, but I know you kind of also have this goal to tie it in to raise awareness with through wrestling too as well, I think it was, or somehow tie them together.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what is your vision with that? How would you like to kind of tie them together?
Um, so this is actually something I've been kind of thinking about for a while. At this point, I just want to, I guess, as selfish as it sounds, I guess, gain enough notoriety that I do have a platform to speak out on these issues
Yeah.
and whatnot. So I just want to be good enough in wrestling that when I, talk about something I really believe in, that people listen.
Yeah.
That's a start.
Yeah, I think that that's incredible, what you're doing in a lot of aspects of life. And before we
Thank you.
let you go, can you please share where the listeners can find you online?
Okay, so my Twitter or X handle is, so bear with me. It's Kennedy Copeland, but wherever there is supposed to be an E, I put a 3 because every handle I wanted was taken. And then I tried to change it to something like Hardcastle and it wouldn't let me. So I'll deal with that later, I guess. And then I recently just changed my Instagram handle, so I'm not actually 100% sure what it is. It might be the Kennedy Hardcastle. Just look up Kennedy Hardcastle on the internet, and you'll come across me. Let's see what it is. I don't even know. I changed my name so much I can't keep up.
It's at the Kennedy Copeland.
Oh, it is? It still is?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. I got to get around to changing that. I can't even keep up with my own self.
Yeah, it's all good, you know. Follow Kennedy though, you know, wherever she is online. You can you know, we'll put it down below and all of that. But Kennedy, thank you so much for joining me here today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. I appreciate it.